Greetings and welcome to the first in a series of interviews with our authors for SSP Publications. I'm Scott Smith. Here's the book we're talking about today. It's called Images of the Keji Country, and I'm happy to be here today with the author and primary artist Don Pentz, who has a long history with Keji. Kejimkujik's a national park in the southwestern interior of Nova Scotia. It's about 380 square kilometers. Founded in 1968. It's basically a pristine wilderness with lakes and rivers and forests, and a very, very popular park in Nova Scotia. And Don's had a long history there. And maybe, Don, could you outline the different roles you've had down at Kejimkujik Park for going on 5 decades now?
Making me sound like an old man. I guess I am. I started working in that area. It wasn't a park at the time. It was controlled by Bowater Mersey, and I was one of the summer students hired by Bowaters to go in, and there was a crew of 8 of us, and we were called cruisers, for lack of a better name, and we were doing an inventory for them because this was just, they'd already heard from the National Park System that Keji was going to be taking over this land, so they wanted to get some idea how much timber volume they were going to be losing and all that sort of thing, which I don't know anything about. So, but I was in there cruising. We spent the summer traveling by canoe and living in tents, and so I got to know that land. And then later, when the park was established, I was fortunate to be hired as a summer student, as a park naturalist, called interpreters these days, I guess. But and that was a wonderful role, because then I got to understand and learn the history of the area, especially the Mi'kmaq history, and felt very privileged to be able to work in there a few summers. And then after that, because of my artistic skills, I would get hired on contract basis to do some illustration work for them, which again is in the park. And ever since, well, from that moment on, that time, I've been going regularly to the park to go painting. It's my what I call my medicine place, and it feeds me artistically, but also spiritually.
I was going to ask, what is it about the park that keeps drawing you back there year after year, and particularly as an artist, what is it about the physical place and the spiritual place that really resonates with you?
From an artistic point of view, it was just because I was influenced by the group of 7. I always liked their work. I tried copying their work in a way. Well, it's the twisted pines, it's the erratic rocks, it's the expanses of the lake, it's some of the quiet corners in the lake with the way the light and the shade works and so on, all of that. And from a spiritual point of view, I hear voices in there, and off in the distance, Lord, I said, that doesn't sound normal. Anyway, so don't get me going on that.
No, I won't. I won't. Maybe it's time to look at a few of the images from Don's book, and so we'll just start with this one, which it's called West Side Keji. It's a watercolor from 2005. Definitely shows a group of 7 influence there. Just a beautiful painting. There's also text involved with each particular painting. The upper panel is a description of, I guess you could say, the creative processes involved in the creation of each of these paintings. And the lower panel are called journal notes, which is a more, I guess, folksy approach to Don's adventures in the park, and some of those are rather colorful, but here's another one. This is called Morning Mist, West River, and that's just gorgeous. It's actually on the back cover of the book, I believe. Yeah, there it is. Morning Mist, West River, a watercolor from 2005. The canoe is present in a lot of your paintings. I've noticed that in producing this book, and obviously that's the way you got around this park, and the way many people get to the forest reaches of these parks. So
it also serves as a good focal point.
Right. Here's another one called Pescoa, September Morning, 2. One interpretation in watercolor, one in oil from the same particular site. Both beautiful paintings. And let's go to another one here. What do we got? Here we go. This is called Loon Haiku, which is a really gorgeous oil painting of a loon in Kejimkujik Park. So, can you tell me a little bit about the native presence in Keji Country and the way it's influenced your paintings. What evidence is there in the park now of, you know, the Micmac were fishermen and hunters in that particular tract of land long before the white man got there, like centuries ago. Is there any physical evidence of the Micmac hunting parties and fishing parties in the park there now that one can see?
There's lots as you can see. Perhaps the main site would be and to give the sense of presence of the Mi'kmaq would be the petroglyphs, and especially down the Ferry Bay area, they're carved in the slate rocks there. And then the archaeologists have gone in and found other sites where there's petroglyphs, but they're not made known to the public because you can't control the visitation. And I know that the summer that I was there, the archaeologists found a number of what they call old ancient fire rings out in Indian Point. And of course a lot of the place names are Mi'kmaq. And because of the position of Keji, it was a major meeting ground for tribes that lived in the Bay of Fundy shore and on the Atlantic shore, because it's connected with river systems from both sides. And so it's an obvious spot to have major powwows and things like that.
And where they would go to hunt and fish in the summertime and retreat to the woods in the wintertime, right? Now, I guess we should show some of Don's petroglyph paintings. These are really gorgeous ink and acrylic paintings of, I guess, images from the petroglyph paintings left on the rocks by the Micmac, but you've taken them and interpreted them in your own way to create your own paintings of these. Is that right?
Yes.
Is that the process?
But I tried to do it in a respectful manner, rather than using them as some kind of I'm not trying to make any comment, I'm just giving you a different sense of what they're about.
Yeah, no, they're really lovely. And I think that you've been very respectful of that ancient ground throughout the book, and I commend you for that. Can you tell us a little bit of your folk stories from your camping adventures? And I know that you had an encounter with a bear at one point, at least one encounter with a bear.
I had one on a portage, and I was carrying an aluminum canoe at that time, and I raised the canoe because I thought I must be getting close to the end of this portage, and I wanted to look ahead to see if I could see any blue lake coming through the trees. And what I saw instead was this black shape, and I thought, uh-oh. And he came a little closer, and I raised the canoe up to get a better look, and it was aluminum canoe, and it scraped against a limb, and the screech of that canoe on that limb stopped that bear in his tracks. He stood up on his hind legs, and he looked, and I thought, uh-oh. So I tossed the canoe off of my shoulders, and it went crashing into the huckleberry bushes, banged into a tree, and that's when the bear wheeled around and took off the way he'd come.
You were relieved when that happened.
I was very relieved, but I stood there for quite a while because I thought, might this bear have cubs? So I wanted to make sure, and I didn't get any sense of that after a while. So then I continued on my portage.
I also noticed in some of your journal notes a lot of mice present at various times and places.
Well, in some
ever-present mice.
In some sites, especially there was one up in Pesquaw Lake, where they were just everywhere. They were running over my feet. They were going up the pack, so I had to hang everything up. At one point, I pulled a loaf of bread, and it was in the bag. I pulled it toward me, and there was a mouse hanging onto the back end of the bag, trying to gnaw his way through. And in the morning, when the morning sun came up and it glowed against the side of my tent, I could see these silhouettes of the mice going up the side. So then I give the tent wall a whack with my hand and send that mouse flying into the bushes. And I swear to God, they came back for more.
They'll be coming back again too, Don, at some point. They haven't forgotten that. By the Don, tell us about the encounter with the bobcat.
Well, I was splitting wood one evening for firewood for supper, and I looked out across the lake, and I could see this V coming toward my campsite, and I thought, oh, beaver. And it kept coming closer, and so I dropped my wood and the axe, and I walked down to the shore to get a closer look, thinking he would veer off, and he didn't. And as he got closer, I could see that the ears on this critter were not round like a beaver's. They were more pointed, and I realized, oh, it's a bobcat. And he just kept coming straight toward me, so I moved, thinking that once he sees me there, he's going to veer off to one side or the other. No way. He's just coming straight in, straight in. And I'm standing there thinking, all right, now what? And finally he came ashore, probably about 20 feet away. He never looked at me. He never acknowledged my existence. And I thought he'd stop and shake. No way. He just stepped from that lake, walked right by me, walked up into the woods, and disappeared. And I thought, whoa, this is very unusual behavior for a bobcat. And later that night, he started howling. And that's when I realized he probably came ashore there because there was a female already on the island, and this was a rendezvous.
I see.
Uh-huh. So that was the last I saw of him. So I hope he had a good night.
Interesting. So finally, what is a pukwudgie?
A pukwudgie is a little spiritual critter, creation, they're generally about that high. They're male and female. They have a physical look like us, but they look like a native person, okay? Just a minute. They're very mischievous. They're very dangerous. If you don't treat them with respect, you can get into a lot of trouble. And they love to play tricks on campers. Like you lay something down, and you go do something, and you come back. Where did I lay that knife? I know I just put it right there, and it's gone. Okay? Or sometimes I can hear them humming, and I think, that's not a mosquito. And anyway, treat them with respect. I tell people, you see a hole at the base of a tree and you're going to have a pee, don't pee in that hole, because that's where a pukwudgie could be living.
Okay,
yeah.
So is a pukwudgie real, or is it?
Of course they're real.
Yeah?
Oh yes, and you don't want to mess around with them.
Okay, well I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah.
So listen, thanks for your time, Don, and congratulations on a wonderful book. And if you want to purchase a copy of Don's book, you may do so at a good bookstore near you, through our website, sspub.ca, or at amazon.ca. Thanks for joining us. See you next time.